just your super standard like Viking wannabe man.
Mm-hmm.
He has a big beard. He has his wife. His wife dies. He covers her with a flag. It is all like, all right, crew, we've been preparing for this for a long time.
Yeah.
Alpha ho. Like, fuck this guy.
I wish that was their like call. My name is Nate.
My name's Mike.
And what the hell was that?
What the hell was that?
We came home from the theater.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the Muppets for a bit.
Yeah.
Made some coffee.
Uh-huh.
Relocated quite a few times.
Yes.
We adjusted some gains and some microphones.
Uh-huh.
And I think we're ready to talk about the Forever Purge.
Yeah, God forbid we ever do anything between watching a film and coming to record this podcast that's in a span of like 24 hours. Because if you got to run down the itinerary of every action that took place, then...
Honesty is the best policy.
No, that's fair. That's fair. We did not just get back, and I'm proud of you for being so honest about it with our listeners.
Thank you. It would keep me up at night otherwise.
Yeah, of course.
So, what are your short thoughts here? In a few words, what did you think of that film?
I have a bit of an alliteration,
Okay.
and I think I'm going to go with preaching problematic politics.
That's very close to mine.
Yeah.
I was going to say. I think I could best describe it as centrist propaganda.
Yeah, seriously, yes. Yeah, 100%. It seems like the theme of the film is like, I know this is real tough, America, but let's all band together against very open, violent, virulent racists with tattoos of swastikas on their faces.
Yeah, it was just like really preachy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was the tamest take of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, maybe the soft racism isn't so bad, but that hard racism where they decide to revolt and shoot people in the streets, I know this is tough.
None of that, please.
Yeah, let's all band
go
together.
back to being quietly racist in our homes. Thank you very much.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's like, those are the cool ones. And maybe we can all learn to live with that. Am I right, America?
Yeah, that was that.
Smile on your brother, everybody. You know, like, Jesus.
Yeah, because it was, in my opinion, it felt very clear that many of the antagonists of this film, because it seemed like rather than there being one main antagonist, there were several kind of minor antagonists throughout it.
Yeah, such is the nature of the Purge.
Yeah, and it seems like pretty much all of those could be attributed to just radical political ideologies.
Right.
A good deal of them probably far right kind of people.
Yeah, there was a short take towards like a far left kind of like
yeah, that's what I was going to say is that, it very much wanted to equate like, you're taking advantage of my work and getting rich while I am poor, and thus I am an antagonist in this movie.
Right.
You know, it is a strange take. Again, very like centrist. The horseshoe theory, like both sides are
100%.
kind of the same.
Yeah, well, and furthermore, that they could like ally over something to, I guess, come together and say, we do need a long purge. And then when one of them go, well, I want to kill all races that aren't American, and the other one goes, well, that sounds fine by me. I just don't want to be poor no more. and I guess they're like, well, then yes, and shake hands.
Yeah.
And agree to this grand conspiracy, as we'll get into in the plot.
Yeah, so I do have, I think, some more talking points that kind of make a lot of the ideas of this movie kind of fall flat on its face. But those kind of, I think, will apply a little bit more to when we get to a point where we talk about maybe gripes with the plot. So I think to properly transition into that, let's talk about the plot.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. So how do you want to do this? I can start swinging on the first end here.
Yeah. So you just kind of go through your list, and I'll chime in need be, and then we'll trade off.
All right. So after many production houses that have openings and screen cars that seem like they could have been the opening of the movie.
Yeah, it was very much like that. I think there's a bit in Family Guy of like not knowing when the movie starts because of all the different.
Yeah, the production house. Yeah. I suppose it was pretty much exactly like that. Yeah. Platinum Dunes got me. There's a production house called Platinum Dunes that opens with like a sweeping Platinum Dunescape, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, I've seen
shot.
The Blumhouse one enough to know that was obviously what that was. But I have to agree.
Oh, is that what that was? I didn't know what BM stood for.
I think it was. Anyway,
Blumhouse is.
Anyway, I've seen that production studio's intro.
Yeah. Well, it would have been a bold choice if they opened up with like floating chair and haunted house.
The Purge, paranormal.
Yeah, exactly. It has been announced in the beginning of this film that The Purge is back on.
Yeah, it was very, like, kind of, in my opinion, haphazardly done.
Yeah.
Because I think I've only seen the previous film, which was, like Election Day or something like that.
Right.
And to my recollection, the resolution of that film was more or less like, oh, we voted and the purge is abolished. Yay! And then in like the opening like montage scene of this movie, there is like a news clip that is just more or less just says, the new American founding fathers or whatever they're called were reelected and reinstated the purge. And my first thought was just like, it was that easy? Like.
Right. Yeah, and I suppose so. Because the purge is back on, baby. So, okay, all right. So we actually open up.
Yes.
And this took me a second to remember with a border crossing. Mm-hmm. I guess it's Juan and Aleda, which
Adela, I believe.
What?
I think Adela.
Adela, yeah, you know, you're right. Adela is definitely her name. So it's like Juan or it's Adela because of the way vowels are pronounced in the Spanish
that's
language.
My whitey way of saying
it. Yeah, fair. Okay, so Juan and Adela, I think, are present at this border crossing. Yeah. And this is the first of many jump scares, which seem wildly out of place in this film. But I'll touch on that when we get to talking about the film at large. But yeah, there's a child jump scare in the tunnels at the border crossing.
He gets a flashlight shine directly in his face and reacts like nobody who has ever had a flashlight shine directly into their eyes.
Dilate. Yeah, it's like a rigor mortis is set in. Now, it's a standard border crossing scene that I would come to expect in that they go to like a shanty house on just this much of the side of border of Mexico, go into a tunnel and go through some caves and assumably pop out in America somewhere.
After paying some people.
Yeah, after paying some coyotes or whatever. I have no idea how border crossings usually work. I don't know the accuracy of that, but that is how border crossings have always been pitched to me, so I'm sure that can't be entirely accurate what they portrayed there, but who knows. So they get out and they're like, great, we're on the U.S. side of the border, and one dude's like, if you ever get lost, follow the roses.
I think it was the kid too.
The kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the kid goes, if you ever get lost, follow the roses.
They'll help you.
They'll help. Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's
so
just
that gets
like
dropped.
The roses will lead to help, essentially.
Yeah, right. So that's what gets dropped there. So now we sun up on a ranch. This ranch is doing an activity right now, and that activity is horse breaking. Now, in the pen with the horse is a fella named Dylan, who is immediately commented upon by, assumably at this point, his pa to his sister, who I know is his sister, because pa goes, why does your brother always have to prove himself? And then we go back to the pen where Dylan gets horse kicked in the ribs, and then he bounces off a gate more or less, and it's like,
honestly,
oh, my ribs.
I don't even know that that's entirely accurate, because it was more like the horse kind of like bumps into him, and he's like, my ribs.
He gets hit.
It wasn't
with
like a proper like
hooves.
rear back kick.
Yeah, it wasn't the hardcore one. Yeah, exactly.
But he acts like he got that.
Yeah, he got the front hooves to the ribs, and because he has to prove himself, he got some hurt ribs now. So he's holding his ribs and kind of sells them on and off throughout the film and leaves the gate, where Juan now enters the pen and does some horse whispering, and he's like, ooh, we're cool. Ooh, we're cool. And the horse is like, yeah, we are. And then the horse goes to, like, sleep. I don't know if that's how horse breaking actually works.
I don't either, but I definitely imagine it takes a lot more work than eye contact and, like, whispering.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, there's a thing called, like, equestrian therapy, where someone will take you into, like, a horse pen and tell you how to, like, communicate with the horses and have good, like, horse leader energy. So I guess there's, like, a sixth sense psychic vibe that horses legitimately, like, get from the way you hold yourself. And I guess Juan possesses that. And they phrase that as being, like, a real cowboy.
Yeah.
So Juan's friend / other farmhand, TT, is like, hey, that's a real cowboy. And TT is also Mexican. And so Dylan kind of harumps off, and he's like, and Pa Caleb is like, oh, that's my son. What a brash man. He'll find his way. So that's the scene at the horse, where Juan shows that he just has natural cowboy swagger. Cut to the meat plant. Now, the meat packing plant is where Adela and her boss, Darius, are currently. And I don't know if Adela is currently working or if she, like, helps manage the plant and, like, speak to the other new, fresher immigrants.
It was never explicitly said, but it definitely, like, the vibes I got was that she's been around for a while and she's kind of, like, next in charge.
Right.
It also helps the newly hired,
that's
like,
what it
immigrants.
seems to be. Yeah. So she's like, Darius, you're lucky I'm here helping you run this plant. And Darius is like, yeah, you're right. I acknowledge that. And so that's more or less the meatpacking scene. Mm-hmm. We are at the day before the purge. Now, the day before the purge, or at least I guess more accurately, the night before the day before the purge, Juan and Adela are in their house, and Juan's like, speaking Spanish, and Adela's like, hey, we're in America now.
Cut that shit out.
Yeah, not quite so harsh. But she's like, hey, like, I want you to give an honest try to trying to, like, integrate seamlessly here into American Texas society. And Juan's like, I mean, I don't really feel like that's ever going to be something that's really plausible. But I mean, when in Rome, to which Adela says, when in America. And I went... So that's their story. The night before the day before the purge, and the night before the day before the purge in Dylan and family's company involves racist Dylan, his sister Cool Harper, his wife pregnant Cassidy. That's her name.
Cassidy. Okay,
Cassidy
good.
is her
I
name.
did not know her name.
Yeah, you see.
What was the name of the sister?
Harper.
Harper.
Yes.
I don't remember that coming up.
No. It really, honestly, I had to look this up because the characters' names are so just completely skipped over in this film. Like,
as well as just kind of like the first names that the producers thought of. Like, all right, we need a Mexican character. Juan.
Yeah, that's exactly right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So, so that's kind of what it is. And so Dylan, Harper, Caleb, the family owners of the ranch, and Dylan's wife, pregnant wife, nonetheless, Cassidy, are all having dinner. Mm-hmm. And Harper's, or I guess Caleb more accurately, because they're all in, like, Pa's ranch right now, you know, eating dinner. And so they have a helper who is what else but Mexican. And so Harper's like, yeah, the helper is really good with my kids. And so her kids are speaking, like, Spanish with the helper and, like, you know, being Duolingo and all that jazz. That's the app. Being dual linguists.
And that pisses off Dylan. He's like, I will have no Duolingo in my household.
Yeah, because, like, Harper's like, you know, when your pregnant wife gives birth to your child, you know, Cassidy, when you give birth, like, maybe I can introduce you to, like, my helper's sister, because she's nice and is also a good helper by merit of whatever makes my helper a good helper.
Yeah.
Not the race thing. And so...
It's not a race thing.
It's not a race thing. No, me me, even though I'm going to say verbatim the sentence, it's so hard to find good help these days.
And then Dylan more or less says, "It is a race thing. I don't like Mexicans in my house."
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "We don't need to meet your helper's sister." And then his wife is like, "Well, I think your sister's just trying to be nice. You're being pretty rude." And he's like, "Oh, well, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't want my son speaking no Spanish." So, hey, and so she's like, "Okay, I mean, that's fine. I just wanted to bring up the point," to which he says again, "We don't need to meet her sister." And so that is the scene there at dinner the night before the purge.
Yes.
Now it is officially the day before the purge.
Yay.
And Juan is at work with TT and a new farmhand who we haven't met before. Ooh. But his name, Kirk, is his name, as I've learned from the IMDb website.
Again, just like first white dude name you could think of.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I hope to God that's actually the character's name, because I saw the actor's portfolio.
I'm almost certain it is.
So Kirk here is given protection money for the purge, as is TT and Juan. And Caleb's like, "Hey, Juan, here's some extra money for purge protection. And sorry about my son being a dick to you this morning."
This is to Juan. He's saying that.
Yes. Caleb's like, "Sorry that, racist Dylan was a dick to you this morning. He's just mad that you showed him up with the horse breaking thing.
But he's not racist."
That's my theory. I think my son just is a real prideful man and doesn't like being shown up. To which Juan says, "My theory is that your racist son is racist."
To which he's like, "No."
Well, I don't know.
He's like, "Oh, okay, man, I don't know."
He's like, "I don't know about that, but I mean, look, I don't think,
being an American isn't what it used to be."
Oh, yes. Yeah, we'll get to the needless CNN pundit speeches that people give all the time, because he really does do like a whole "well, I don't even know if I know what it means to be a proud American no more."
Yeah,
Wrangler
he
jeans
was
are the
very
toughest jeans this side of the
The father was very much like the ideal centrist.
Yeah, he's whatever mix of like John Wayne and Reagan people wanted, but without all the acerbic macho qualities that people associate with them. America. Yeah, so that's his bit. And then he gives the protection money to Kirk, and he's like, "Get yourself through the purge." And Kirk is just like, turning to TT and Juan, he's like, "I'm not going to spend this money on protection, I'll tell you that." Which, I mean, after we find out what he spends the money on, it seems very much like he spent it on protection.
Yeah,
But afterwards, he's like, "I'm not going to spend it on protection. This money is just so they can keep using our slave labor here on the ranch.
They're giving us money so we can be slaves."
Yeah. Now, yes, that is true. Wage slavery is the shorthand term, but he didn't say that. He said he's using slave labor, and I don't know if he really knows exactly what he's saying there.
Yeah.
Or if the producers of this film really know the difference between people who view wage slavery versus standard real, no wage slavery.
Well, again, I think we pretty well established that they're centrists, so probably not.
Yeah, right. So that's conclusion time over at the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And now it is officially time for Bang Bang, the Purge. Bum, 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 which they do have a siren noise for, and like a little wah, wah. And at least 5 in, I was like, "Oh my God, does this happen for the entirety of the Purge?" This is the whole 12 hours. Now they go over the rules of the Purge, and to be frank, this is my first introduction of the rules of the Purge proper.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've been changed since the first film. They're 12 hours, all crimes, including murder, which seems like a weird distinction to have to make, where they're just all crimes are legal. What, did somebody raise their hand to be what about murder? And then someone has to be is that not a crime? What?
It kind of feels to me a little bit more like they're kind of mentioning it because they're like, "Oh, geez, we'd sure hate for any of you to do anything I don't know, just off the top of my head, murder."
Murder? Yeah, exactly. But it seems, because murder's the milquetoast one. It seems to me if you make the point about all crimes are legal, and we mean all crimes, then you would just be including baby drowning. You could baby drown if you want. It's the Purge, baby.
I think if the Purge was real, I think that's when I would illegally download all of the content that I wanted.
Yeah, okay, you caught me.
Yeah.
But look when I did it. So what do you got to do? Yeah, it's fair. That's the time to do all the petty stuff. Park without paying for the meter.
Mm-hmm. Insider trading.
Yeah, insider trading up. That's the real job right there. Insider trading on Purge Day. We go public the day after the purge. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Good to know. Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, so they mentioned that grade 4 weapons, whatever is below or above grade 4 weapons, I don't know.
Yeah,
I assume that means like tanks and vehicles and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. And then like grade 10 politicians can't be murked.
Yeah.
And that's more or less the rules. For 12 hours, do what you want. So,
which actually, sorry to derail again.
No,
I
please.
wonder if that means that within the context of the purge, like, I assume because it said like rank 10.
Sure.
So like, I wonder does that mean that like local politicians and stuff are like fair game?
Exactly. Yeah. Assassinate them all you want, but like president and president's cabinet, no, ma'am. The Secretary of Education's on though. You can kill the Secretary of Education. You can do that. Yeah. So I don't know. The lore of the Purge-averse is unbeknownst to me. So who knows? So the purge is officially on, womp, 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 and everyone has fancy steel lockdown doors, except for the people that don't, but we don't get the camera services seeing those people.
Maybe it was just me, but I felt like those fancy steel doors were like CGI and looked really bad.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not like their walls were steel, so I don't know. Like their barn had like steel doors, but their barn is still like wood on the outside.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, I say. Ridiculous. So the fancy ranch people have steel doors on their fancy ranch that lower on Purge Day with like remote controls, and it's like lockdown and like cameras and things. All sensible stuff for rich ranch people to have. For,
although they didn't seem to like take the time to maybe like do a walkthrough of some of the places that were going to be like closed down, like the barn, for example.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, while Juan and Adela have garnered access to like a fugitive bus that will take them to a safety shelter for Purge Day. So they go to a mass safety shelter on a school bus and make it just fine before Purge lockdown. So lockdown, they're in their safety shelter. Ranch people are in the ranch. A quick couple shots of like murder in the streets, Purge standard fare.
Yeah.
Well, Purge stuff, but like not main character Purge stuff. Like Donnie down the block owed Joe some money, and none of them can afford steel doors, so one of them's getting hit or whatever. You know, like stuff like that. So that's all that. And so during the purge, in the ranch home, we see the camera of the barn, a quick flash. Perhaps an intruder or a person. We don't know. But racist Dylan is itching to go check out his gun cabinet. So he goes out because there's some generator failure.
Yeah, he hears some noises and he thinks, uh-oh, somebody might be in here.
Yeah, exactly. So he goes to his garage and sees that the generator's on the fritz. So he fixes it right quick.
With a big old kick.
Yeah, a firm boot, and that'll get the job done. So he opens his grand old gun cabinet and starts like looking over like his many bullets and rifles. Pulls one of the guns out. It's like he just has his pistol.
He had his gun. He had his handgun like in his waistband.
Yeah, and he doesn't pull any guns out of like his gun cabinet.
Yeah, he's just like admiring.
His handgun, closes it, and there's a person there. So he pulls his gun, and it's his pregnant wife. And he's like, "My pregnant wife, you startled me." And she's like, "You are on the fritz. What's your deal? You're acting real weird and real on edge." And he's like, "That turns me on." So he starts kissing her, and that's about as much as is going on in the ranch. Pa and Harper are dancing in the living room, but whatever. And so, so now we cut to safety fugitive school for sanctuary from the purge. And we see some trucks go by with a symbol that has been seen all over town. And I don't really know what to call them, but I'm calling them Real American Racist Clan.
Yeah.
And they have a torture truck where they're just like, we're sick of immigrants coming in and pillaging and raping our country. So we're taking it back, baby. And they have a torture truck, and Adela picks up one of the guns on the roof, and she's handling it real proficiently. And she turns on the thermal and sees some Mexicans in the torture truck being tortured in a manner that is pretty vague. We don't know. There's just screams. And she turns to the dude on the roof, and it's like, I have the shot. And he's like, nah, you'll start a whole war and put everybody in this fugitive center at
your
risk.
People.
Yeah. He does say your people. He's like, you'll put your people in danger. And she's like, all right, fine. So she lowers the gun, and as she walks away, he can't let the obvious question go unasked. So he's like, how do you, woman, know how to handle a gun like that? And she's like...
And the writers decide that right now is not the right time to reveal that information, so she just walks away.
Yes, 100%. Flash to the next morning. Purge over. Applause in the Fugitive Center for whatever it is. They all start clapping. Juan seems like he's also confused for a second, but then starts clapping.
Okay, we clap, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So the ranch doors open up. Racist Dylan is out there with his morning cup post-purge. And so he's like, well, let's get to work. The purge is over. So he goes over to the barn area where he opens up and things seem quiet.
Too quiet.
Just quiet enough, really. And so he walks in the door, and the anti-racist horse that he couldn't break comes out of the stable. And as Nate said, he thought it was coming back for its revenge, which I think would have been
round
great.
2.
Yeah, but no, it just walked away because anti-racist horse, I guess, is actually in cahoots with what turns out to be a little group sect of...
Uprising, baby.
Yeah. There's people who are like, purge is over, but our purge isn't over. So they come in and they like beat Dylan a little bit and they like take him out to the back. So we cut now to Adela over at the meatpacking plant, where as she's walking to work, they're all washing the purge blood and stuff like that. And so she goes into the workplace. And they're like, all right, welcome to the meatpacking plant. So she's taking out some of the morning garbage, goes out to an alleyway, and sees a goat in a cage.
Yeah, and really out of place Saw-like scene in here.
Yeah. Well, first off, the purge just ended. You go out in the alleyway of your workplace, and you see a very conspicuous cage with a goat
like
inside
in the
set
middle
up.
of the alley.
And no suspicious alarms in your brain go off. Nothing about this. You're just like, well, that's fucking weird. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Or at least I'm not touching that without getting 5 of my closest, biggest workers and coming back out here and being like, the fuck is with this goat? Let's all figure this out together. But no, she has a heart of gold and sees that this poor goat is trapped. So she goes and sees that the lever is placed not on the outside of the gate, but conspicuously inside the gate, where the only way to reach it is to stick both your hands and your head through slots pretty much just large enough for those appendages and pull this lever. And so when she pulls this lever, a very Saw-like trap happens, and you're teleported briefly to a new movie where the cage flips up and she has her arms and head trapped, and then like a hydraulic press... nail drill type fucking thing.
Yeah, I don't know tools.
Piercing tool. So it's going like boom, 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 boom. And then 2 rabbit people hop out of the dumpster and are like, hee.
And she's like, help, help.
And she's like, oh, thank God, some people. With these
Somebody set this trap and I need some help. Thank God you guys came along.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, thank Christ. Help me out. And they're like, purge is still on. Ha, ha, ha. We're going to kill you. And she's like, oh, God, no. And then for some reason, they set this hydraulic brain-piercing trap to, like, lower in stages per press of button. So they have a little button, and it lowers it, like, 1/3 of the way, and then goes, and does a little, like, pierce thing. And she's like, oh, God, I'm so scared. And then they press it again, and she's like, man, I am 1/3 more scared now. And then they push it again, and she's like, I am the most scared before the inevitable death. And now her boss, Darius, comes out and starts fighting them, and they start fighting back. Darius starts fighting them off, and eventually frees Adela from the trap, and now she's fighting the rabbit mask people, and eventually he pulls the rabbit mask fella into the very same hydraulic piercing press, pushes the button, and like boom, Rabbit Man's brain is pierced, where at this very moment some cops go, freeze! The least astute detectives I've ever seen in my life are just like, well, we have this weird goat trap thing going on, some men in some very purge-like costumes here, they have rabbit masks, brandishing weapons.
They were clearly the victims in this scenario.
And here Sir, I just saw one of them get their skull pierced in what appeared to be a struggle. I think that these two people who seem suspiciously likely to work in this meat packing plant here
might be part of the larger uprising that's about to happen.
Ambushed these fine citizens, and now it is our public duty to arrest them. So they shove them in a paddy wagon. Meanwhile, Juan and Titi have the hood down in a very open truck. And look, I don't care. It has to be at least like a week after the purge before I'm comfortable. Like, the air is fresh. Let me go with a roof down ride over to my ranch job.
Yeah, especially when they drive past like a house in which there was a body that was being eaten by a dog.
Yes, exactly. It's like, but I do love that brisk Texas air. Like, come on now. Anyway, they arrive at the ranch, and they're I lost the word. Trouble there, yeah. I lost the word for ranch. But yeah, so they arrive at the ranch, and their first sign that something's off is, why is the gate open? So they arrive, and now we cut back to the fellow whose name I constantly forget, Kirk.
Yeah.
The fellow who was given the protection money and was like, I'm not going to spend this on protection, if you know what I mean. He now has part of the real American racist clan. Well, I guess not racist. Separate clan, same uprising.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we all got together last night, you see, and decided that the purge isn't over after 12 hours this year. This purge is the real purge, and we're not stopping
forever.
Yes, we're not stopping until all the people who need to be killed are killed, and that will perpetuate, and that system seems like it'll just self-organize real nice as far as I can tell.
Ever after, shoot in the sky, bang, bang.
So he goes over to Pa Caleb because held hostage now are Pa Caleb, Cool Sis Harper. Really, eventually these will get ingrained in my mind, I promise. Pregnant wife Cassidy and Dylan.
Yes.
And so he looks at Pa Caleb and he's like, here's what I bought with your protection money, and pats a very shiny large revolver on his hip, which I guess isn't protection.
Yeah.
It's something else. And
it's offense.
Yeah. And so he grabs Dylan and is like, all right, buddy, listen, I'm a ranch hand and I'm poor. And y'all own this ranch and are rich. And now we're going to swap places. And he goes, okay, now that we're swapping places, Dylan, I'm going to ask you a question. How much would you pay?
I have $10.
Really, that is honestly what he's asking him. But not even, because he's like, hey, well, how much is your sister's life worth? As he holds a gun to her head. And he's like, how about $10? That seems real fair considering market price for human life. He's like, so you give me $10 and your sister can walk away. And then he goes, oh, wait, you're me now. You don't have $10. I guess your sister's dead because without money, you have no power. And this is the moral of my story.
Yep.
And so now...
riveting stuff.
So now Pa Caleb starts like getting real rowdy because he's seen that Juan and TT have shown up. They saw
they're
that
peeking around the corner.
Yeah,
and
this hostage situation went down. They scoped it out, grabbed some guns from the aforementioned, is that even proper? Anyway, gun cabinet, pull out some of the coolest guns, and come forth with their tactical sights and automatic firing weapons. And so they're watching this kind of all pan out because God forbid they fire the first shot in this exchange. So Pa Caleb is getting all rowdy, and so... Kirk, I gotta remember this guy's name. So Kirk is like, oh, what's this, Pa Caleb? You're getting real rowdy. So
I wish that's what he called him.
Pa Caleb.
All right, Pa Caleb.
All right, Pa Caleb. So he...
all right, Sister Harper, let's hear what you have to say.
I'm going with Cool Sis Harper because she's pretty chill about all of it. She's not racist, and she's a pretty competent figure in this film. Does she die?
No, she doesn't.
And so Pa Caleb starts getting rowdy, and Kirk undoes his like mouth gag, and is just like, "What you gonna say, Pa Caleb?" And Pa Caleb is like, "You're right. Ever since the days when we murdered the American Indians on this here land, everything that people have gotten in power has been taken, and now." You are playing into the very hands of the powerful, and you're being a hypocrite and a lackey for the oligarchs in Washington. And so with that, fine sir, fuck you. And so Kirk goes, well, that's the line for me, and shoots Pa Caleb square in the forehead. At which point, TT and Juan are like, well, that's
our cue.
That's a pretty open act of aggression. I wasn't sure about this beforehand, but now I feel pretty comfortable shooting these fellas. So they go ahead and do exactly that. So pop, 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 fellas all dead. They free racist Dylan, pregnant wife Cassidy, and cool sis Harper. So Dylan's like, hey, let's get the Mack truck that we load all of our bovine into, you see here. We're going to leave the trailer behind here on the ranch, and we're going to get into the front cab of this Mack truck, and we are leaving to somewhere. We don't know what's going on, but we're just going. And Juan's like, we got to get my wife and get to safety. And they're like, that is agreed. Let's go. And so they all start going forward, and Juan now calls his wife,
who, for whatever reason, still has her cell phone in the back of this police vehicle.
Yes, her and her boss Darius have been arrested, but she has access to a phone, I guess.
And at some point, it's never disclosed when, whether it was before they were put into the back of the van or if they made some extra stops.
Right.
But there have been additional people put into the back of this police van.
Yes, and these additional people are actors who are making some very strong choices with their performances. But they just weren't really connected with me. The first character we're introduced to is a very large fella who speaks like Macho Man Randy Savage and has a big old swastika tattoo right on his face. And he likes guns and being racist and just generally pretty obstreperous.
Not being restrained.
Yeah, he's not a big fan of being captured. And he lets them know by screaming, let me go. And then we have, like, psycho party chick, who I guess is, like, his, like, girlfriend or whatever, because she's laughing and being like, the purge is forever now. And I almost half expected her to start breaking out, like, creepy nursery rhymes, because that's the exact energy she had. And so her and Nazi Face are in this truck with Adela and Darius, and that's what they're dealing with as they drive through. Bam! Police truck gets RPG'd and flipped over, and as it rolls, because it rolls like 5 or 6 times after being RPG'd, party chick breaks her neck during
just
the
like
roll.
instantly.
Yeah. Macho Nazi Face breaks his restraints, and for some reason, the gravity of the situation is such that he is
like directly on top of
Adela, and now he's like, I got plenty of options. I'm going sex crimes.
Yeah.
And so he tries to do that, and then Darius...
She fends him off as well as she can.
Yeah, she's doing a good job while being restrained, fending him off. And then Darius breaks free and starts fighting him, and eventually breaks the neck of Nazi Face.
They were kind of cowering because they hear lots of people trying to get into the truck, and then they hear several gunshots, and then they're like, "Oh no, it's about to open. We're gonna." Wait, is that my husband?
So Juan opens it up, and Juan, Harper, and TT are there to make the save because they split the party to come do a search and rescue for his wife, while the pregnant wife Cassidy and racist Dylan are fending the Mack truck, which they do successfully against some assailants. Dylan shoots 2 people and keeps his pregnant wife safe. So all the crew now, wife, Darius, TT, Juan, Dylan, Harper, and Cassidy are headed back to the Mack truck, but Darius is like, I'm staying behind.
I got a wife, and I'm going to leave.
Is that what he says?
He was like, I got to go find my family.
That's
I'm better
fair.
off alone.
So Adela's like, dude, just come with us. And he's like, no, I'm going to do this. So she's like, all right, take this gun then. Mm-hmm. So long, Darius. So Darius leaves.
For the rest of the movie.
Yes, for the rest of the movie. Darius is gone.
Yeah.
And now the final movie crew is going to be in this Mack truck, and they're going on a supply run. Bum bum. So, supply run. Basically, the way this works is they're at a gas station. Juan and Dylan are talking a little bit, and Dylan is like, Juan, I don't speak Spanish. You got to speak to me in English.
Juan has like his only moment in the movie, for the most part, in which he's like, English? I don't speak English well.
Right, yeah, because the rest of the movie speaks English.
Yeah,
just
but at this point, it suited the plot for them to have a
language barrier.
Communication breakdown.
So in the gas station, TT and Harper are searching for supplies, and TT finds some peanut butter, and Harper finds some jelly of a flavor, I forget, blackberry? I think it's blackberry jelly. And TT turns around after saying peanut butter and goes, "You found the jelly."
This could work or something like that.
Maybe this could work.
And
then they wink at each other aggressively or something like that. Waggle their eyebrows.
The peanut butter and jelly thing was kind of landed on a little thick.
Yeah, they came in with a brick and were like, these two are a thing.
Get used to it.
Yeah, so they do that, and they go back to the truck. Well, they don't go back to the truck. The radio starts saying something in Spanish, and Harper goes, "What's the radio saying?" And TT goes, "Oh, my God." So he brings the radio out, which has now started speaking English, and goes, "All right, look, fuckers, here's the deal. For the next 6 hours, Canada and Mexico are like, wow, looks like the purge is still happening in the States. To help our American friends, we're going to open our borders."
Yes.
For 6 hours. After the 6 hours, we don't care what much happens to y'all Americans, but for 6 hours, if you can, run or fly or whatever, come cross our borders. Afterwards, get fucked. And so that is the official diplomatic stance of Mexico and Canada. To which point the crew goes, "Well, we're like in El Paso. We're pretty close to the border. We can
we can
we can totally do that." So like we got a Mack truck, we got some supplies. Let us haul towards the border. So they start hauling towards the border. People are sleeping in the back. Cassidy has her child in her belly. TT and Harper are like snuggling with each other, kinda. And Juan and Dylan are up in the front, and Adela's in the back too. So Juan turns to Dylan and is like, "Hey, Dylan, I want you to tell me you don't like Mexicans much, do you?" And Dylan's like, "Man, I don't know what you're going on about, whatever." And Juan's like, "No, seriously, man, like, fuck it. Just tell me how you feel. I want you to slice the shit," or however you say it. And Dylan goes, "You mean cut the shit?" And he goes, "Yeah, I want you to cut the shit with me." And Dylan goes, "Okay."
Pause for laugh.
Yeah, they did that. Yes, 100%. And Dylan goes, "Okay, Juan, I'll cut this shit with you." And so he gets to give his very nuanced take on his personal feelings of bigotry. And he goes, "Juan, I gotta be honest with you. I don't really hate Mexicans. I mean, I don't really hate no one. Now, I don't understand your culture, much like you don't understand mine, I imagine. I just think that people should stick to their own. I just think we should stay in our groups and avoid this crossing and this exchanging of cultures. It's all confusing and infuriating, and I just think it's better if we all just stay." He doesn't say segregated. He just says stick to your own. But his pitch is, hey,
segregation.
Segregation is really nice. Cultures can stay completely separate, and then people of different cultures don't have to come in and introduce their cultures and make people go, "That's crazy. I don't like that at all. That's dumb. Get out." And then you'll go, "Well, that's fair. I should have stuck with my own." And Juan takes in this information, and, he has a second pause about it, and he says,
Maybe
you're right. But right now, we're together. So, let's do what we have to do." And so, that's their pitch. So, after that very good and very nuanced take, they arrive in El Paso. And at this point, full riot is going on, and their truck, either by taking too many bullets or running out of gas or just having standard mechanical issues that haven't been brought up to this point, the truck encounters some mechanical failure and and breaks down, at which point Dylan is like, "You know what? We can hoof it to the border from here. I think we're good. Let's all stick together. We have guns, and we'll make it just fine."
And so from that point, they're in their now broken down truck, and they all just say, "Now!" And they get out of the car, and then they do their slow, huddled movement where they just aim their guns because nobody wanted to do action choreography. So
Hey, you could tell every one of them played Call of Duty a lot.
Yeah. So they all just do a slow, huddled movement, occasionally shooting a person that came up. They never seem to be any real close call territory. But
there was that one guy who jumped out of an alley with a machete
and then got shot immediately.
What? Oh.
Anyway, I digress. They make their way through this alley, and they end up making it to a diner where they then make through while getting shot at. And
I love the approach to that diner. Real quick, just as I mentioned, because it gets like real suspenseful, and they have like violin build-ups, and it's like dark, and they kind of like get in there and like open the door real quickly to reveal a well-lit Tex-Mex bar.
That still has like the jukebox playing and everything. So they sneak through this diner while getting shot at. And I believe once they reach the end and then get across the street, you see like a mysterious figure who is like watching through a window of some sort.
Yes?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And so then they...
Oh, no, you're right. Okay,
yeah.
I remember now. Okay, yes.
So they get through the diner. Mysterious man's checking them out, and they're unbeknownst to them. And then they see a tank, and they're like, oh... We got to rush across the street, and now's our opportunity. So they rush across the street to get to the theater that is on the other side. And then the wife, Cassidy?
The pregnant one?
Yes.
Yes.
So Cassidy and Adela end up making it in before, boom, tank fires, presumably, because it doesn't really show it. It just shows debris and like a hazy moment. Anyway, explosion happens, and now the door is barricaded, and we have our party split into two. And so then the outside crew, which is Dylan, TT, and Juan, and the sister Harper,
yes.
And they just kind of trek on doing their thing. And then inside we see Adela and the wife start going through this weird theater that is, I guess, playing like Dracula, but it's also decorated, and there's a wonderful jump scare with a fake bat, which also just leads me to believe I worked at a movie theater for a bit,
right?
I've never seen a movie theater, one, decorated,
right,
and two, if you were to decorate it, it seems like hanging like fake bats would be a pretty bad idea because you'd be probably obscuring the view of people who were like in the back of the seat.
Way.
I don't know. Well, the jump scare one was in the aisle, but there were quite a few.
You are right.
Yeah, but
besides the point, in El Paso.
So there's this theater that is weirdly decorated, playing Dracula, and also is like a haunted house kind of deal that has like a green room with like fake dead bodies.
Yeah.
It's weird.
No sense.
Yeah,
there's
I don't know. I'm unsure of what the setting in this scene is.
All-in-one entertainment experience? Yeah.
I guess so.
I don't get it.
Anyway, they trek through and surprise, one of the fake dead bodies is a real live body.
Which is revealed with a very tasteful jump scare.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the guy immediately gets shot and killed. Another guy comes up, gets shot and killed. Adela, total badass, takes him out, no problem. To which Cassidy is like, Adela, you fought them so well. How did you do that? And then Adela now decides that it's time to reveal to us, the audience, that she, while in Mexico, fought the cartel. And it caused so much conflict for her that is a big part of the reason as to why she and Juan had to go to Mexico.
Right.
Go to the United States.
Yes. As they now go back towards Mexico.
Exactly. And they leave the theater, and they see roses on the walls around, at which point Adela discloses that they need to follow those because that'll lead to safety. And then we have our outside crew who are, at some point, I don't know whether it's before or after this interaction, but at some point they also, Juan specifically, sees these roses and says, if I know our wives they're going after those roses.
That is pretty much exactly what he says.
It is more or less what he says. And so then they start to try to follow these roses as well, which at this point they're intercepted by Mother and Daddy, otherwise known as Alpha Leader.
Yeah. He has a name. I saw it on the IMDb. I completely forgot.
We can just refer to Alpha Leader. That's how I have him in my notes.
Daddy? Can we call him Alpha?
Alpha Daddy is the new name going forward. So, anyway, so now we have our four of the outside crew who are now surrounded by this ragtag group of racists.
Yep.
And
the real American racist.
they more or less say to the white folk in the group, "Hey, kill the Mexican people, and we won't kill you."
Yeah, well, no, they don't call them Mexican people.
Yeah, they use the tasteful fake slur.
I've never heard it in my life.
They use the term brownies,
yeah,
which I have never heard before. I hope that nobody is offended by that.
Specifically, not young Girl Scouts. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah,
even a slur?
I
the
don't
hell
know.
is that?
It seems like the least like creative one too. Like, again, it seemed like the writers were like, all right, first thing you can think of that you could call a Mexican person without saying an actual slur.
Any person,
which then they said actual slurs.
But then they actually said exactly. Right.
Yeah, it was weird. Anyway, they're like, hey, kill these Mexican people, and we won't kill you. To which Darius, or not Darius. Darius was the other guy.
The boss that's hopefully saving his family.
then Dylan, reminiscent of his father, says, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
At which
I'm a
point,
soft bigot. I'm a segregationist, but I won't kill nobody.
so then Mother, then Alpha Daddy gives a good smack to Juan, and then Juan's on the ground, and then he's like, "All right, Mother, do what you got to do." And so she approaches Juan with her gun, and he's on the ground, and then bang. But it's not Juan who's dead. She shot TT in the stomach. And then, of course, Harper, now who's madly in love with TT at this point, is distraught. Mm-hmm. And then at this point, the military then comes around and starts firing on this group of ragtag racists.
Yeah.
And
martial law's done been declared.
Oh yeah, martial law. And that provides the perfect distraction for our heroes to slip away, and Juan manages to kill Mother in this process. And this does not make Alpha Daddy happy.
No.
But he's too preoccupied with the military that our heroes get to slip off.
And furthermore, the core group has lost its last expendable member.
Yeah, absolutely.
So unless more people come in to be able to be shot and killed, like...
Yeah, then we're wearing pretty thin here.
Yeah.
So they get away. Mother's dead, but not before she called for backup, who then come and wipe out the military that is attacking Alpha Daddy.
Yep.
And... Then they just get back to following those roses. So then cut to Adela and Cassidy, who then find, I think, a church, some kind of building that at which the roses led them to.
Right.
They make their way in very cautiously,
right.
And they are confronted by a guy who is keeping watch. But he clears them. They're good to go. And then... they go into what's essentially a safe room that has a bunch of people who have also made it to this point. And
presumably by following the roses.
Yes. And then our group is reunited because off-screen, Juan and the rest of the group had made it there.
Yes.
So they reconvene. They catch each other up on the latest adventures.
Right.
At which case...
TT.
Yes, exactly. And then... at this point, the military, we see on the TV through a newscast that the military is being overcome by the militias, and they have to back out. And at which case, Mexico decides, you know what? I think this is a good time to close our borders, actually.
I remember we said 6 hours, but y'all are killing your own military. And
no thanks.
No.
So Mexico closes the borders, and all hope is lost. Or is it?
Bum, 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 bum.
So then the leader of this new group that they have found themselves in, she goes to tell the guy who was on the lookout to go find this guy who we saw on the TV earlier, a Native American fella who was advocating against the purge.
His name is Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
So
He's
tells
the leader of the American Indian tribe here in Texas.
Yes, and apparently the leader of this little group here has some kind of connection with them. So anyway, the group then leaves the safe house, and they are approached by a truck. Oh no, who could it be?
Bum, bum.
And then the lookout gets out, and also with Chicago.
Yeah.
So then they get everybody onto the truck, and they start leaving for the border. So then we cut to Alpha Leader Daddy, who is mourning the loss of Mother. So sad. And at which point he gets a radio call from one of his goons who say, we saw them getting in the truck. And then Alpha Daddy says, all right, you go after them. I'll be right behind you. And then we cut to our protagonists and our new group in the back of this truck.
Right.
And Chicago is telling them that they can cross through to Mexico through the Native American reservation. And so then while we have
there's
this
no wall, it was too complex.
Yeah, there was some kind of railroad or something, and he was like, those stupid white people couldn't do it. So yeah, and so then while they're driving, they can see off in the distance. I don't know if they know who it is. I can't imagine that they would. But then we see Alpha Daddy's caravan following in.
Mm-hmm. On dune buggies and stuff. They are extremely well equipped for this uprising.
Yeah, it's also kind of like really like I haven't seen Mad Max, but it feels like Mad Max vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then they end up our good guy caravan ends up reaching a point where they all get out and they send most of the group to the border, while a select few stay behind, which would be Dylan, Juan. Adela, and Chicago, and a few nameless characters, more or less.
Right. Yeah.
And so then, with limited ammo and resources, they do some guerrilla warfare-like tactics on the caravan who approaches, and
because they're stalling while the rest of the people make it for the border.
The rest of them are heading for the border.
Yeah.
And we also have Cassidy is now going into labor, so those stakes are cranked to the max. Yeah. So then, to add just another notch to that nice suspense, our heroes are now out of ammo, and they're getting pretty much surrounded by our caravan of racists.
Oh, fun side note. One of the people in this exchange is wielding a recurve bow or a bow and arrow, and I will give you one guess as to the race/ethnicity of the character that they decided to give the recurve bow to.
You can leave your guess in the comment below.
Right, yeah.
And so then the group that's now approaching on them just opens fire, bam, 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 bam. And then they creep around this trailer at which our heroes have been taking cover behind, and find that they're not there. They magically slipped away through sleight of hand of some sort, and then got away to a shack that's in the distance,
leaving nothing but a cowboy hat behind.
One lone hat.
Dun, dun.
So they hole up in the shack for a bit, and then the two Native American characters, one of which being Chicago, go to the back room where they're going to keep watch or something.
Yeah, I guess there's two entrances.
So then they can hear that the bad guys are coming up, and they hear the head honcho send some troops to go intercept our people going to the border.
Yeah, they're like, make sure they don't cross the border. And they're like, yes, sir.
And so then we have some guy with a like weird shotgun face mask. It's like it's like the face mask that you would perhaps wear during a global pandemic, but it just has shotgun shells in it.
Yeah.
Very
Don't even
fashionable.
get started on that fella and bullet teeth.
Yeah, so that guy and one other fella come in through the back, at which the natives have like hidden themselves with like buffalo skulls.
Yeah, and behind like some curtain type thing.
Yeah, and they do some sick stealth action and end up taking them out. And then the two of them decide to head to intercept the troops that are going to the border. At which point, a fella on a dirt bike just goes straight through the door.
I forgot all about this.
And then does some dirt bike kung fu, at which he
that's exactly what he
knocks over Adela, and she is unconscious.
Yes.
So now another guy, I guess, at some point another guy comes in. I don't know if he came in right with him or what, but another guy comes in, and after Dylan and Juan do some sick lasso work and hitting with a rod or something. They knock the guy off the bike, and next thing you know, Dylan is now preoccupied fighting this other guy.
Yep.
And then dirt bike dude is trying to give Juan a treadmill face on the tire.
Strewn about. And this guy's like, you know what I really got to do right now?
I got to tear this guy's face off with this spinning tire.
Yeah.
So they're struggling. Oh no, Juan's face is about to go into this tire. At which case, Adela wakes up, grabs that gun, and saves Juan. And Dylan then happens to, just at that very moment, kill the guy
also
who he was fighting
his
with.
baddie, yeah.
Yeah. At which case, they have their moment of relief until Alpha Daddy just reaches through the window and steals
Full
Adela.
Snatch and grab, beautiful.
And so then we cut to the Native American characters who stealthily, with bows and arrows, take out the troops that were heading to intercept the border crossing. And then Alpha Daddy is more or less on his own now, but he has a knife to Adela's throat and a gun with him as well.
Just completely out of use at the current moment.
He's more or less just shooting it into the sky.
Yeah, he has like a gun that he's shooting to help like accentuate the intimidation that he intends to inflict.
So then Alpha Daddy starts telling Adela to yell for help, in which she starts in Spanish yelling, kill him. Right. And then this angers him, and he says, in English, what are you saying? In English. At which case, while he is being distracted, more or less, Juan and Dylan are able to sneak up and do some sick lasso work.
Yep.
And disarm him and get him laying flat on the ground, in which case Juan delivers one of the best placed one-liners I've seen in a while, in which case he stands over Alpha Daddy and he says, does this translate? Before killing him with one shot to the head. And then the characters then safely make it across the border. They're reunited with the surviving characters, in which case Cassidy has had the baby, and Dylan gets to meet his child for the first time, and movie ends.
And in the first sign of perhaps no bigotry, Dylan is happy that
in Mexico,
Adela and Juan are there for the birth of his child.
Yay!
And he speaks Spanish to him.
He does, yeah. A lot of character growth here.
Redemption complete.
All right. Let's start off with, were there any particular performances from actors that stood out to you in a good way or a bad way?
Oh, man, good, bad. No. I mean, no, they were all perfectly passable, but that was about it. It was everything I expected from them, but, like...
Yeah,
no.
I would just like to highlight, you kind of already brought this up, but the fella who had the swastika tattoo on his face, he He had, well, yeah, actually, but both of the people who were in the paddy wagon, they gave very, very interesting performances.
They were making strong acting choices for like their psychosis, but it was so generic from my point of view. Like every single person who's like, I got to be a crazy aggressive person.
Yeah.
They not only did that, but they did it specifically like to the gender standard that goes to like the girl always has to do like some like laughing crazy thing, and the dude always has to like shout and talk like macho man. Like
it felt, for lack of a better word, very cringe.
Yeah, I mean, like they committed to it, and honestly, not to like shit on the actors or whatever, but like they made the strong
very well
acting
could
choices.
have been directed to do that.
But
so.
they, it just didn't hit me. Like I'd seen it before, and it seemed like a very milquetoast kind of approach to like, all right, you're a Nazi face and you're a crazy chick. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there was something about the characters in the bunny costumes that was kind of like, I don't know, like at first it seemed like they were kind of doing like the deadpan silence, like, ooh, creepy.
Yeah.
But then they leaned into like, ah, shit, fuck you.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, they really did. That's true. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like they do start with like a Donnie Darko type of like bunny mask feel, but then they seriously do just go like full like almost like comedy postal type shit, where like because Darius is like fuck you, and the bunny guy goes no fuck you, and like, he literally says it like just like that too. It's so weird. No,
actually,
right.
there was a lot of like, fuck you. No, fuck you in this movie.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I feel like it was definitely more than like once that was the interaction between some characters.
Yeah, a lot of the insult play is I know you are, but what am I?
Yeah,
100%. If it's not just racism, it's fucking weird.
All right, so that leads us to any particular scenes that really stood out to you. And I have a few that we've kind of already talked about that we could dive into a little more. But one that we have not brought up yet that you and I were talking about during the movie was when they were still in the truck and they're driving down the highway. And then there's a group of like 6 people on motorcycles who are like trying to steal their truck.
Yeah.
And they're like, pull over, which... They didn't pull over. Good on them. That would have been pretty foolish.
Yeah.
But they're like, what are we going to do? And you and I said that the obvious answer was use their semi-automatic truck to just...
Semi-auto truck.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Their semi-truck. Excuse me.
No. Like the truck just shoots bullets. They're semi-auto.
Hey, in this movie, I would not have been surprised. But they...
Go on, go on.
They could have, just not stopped because they seemed pretty safe in that. They could have ran the bikes off the road.
Yeah,
they
6
could have just
motorcycles versus a Mack truck.
Run over them. There were a lot of things that they could have done. And the solution was to take a flag, which I'm not sure where they got it from, but they got a flag that was
you're right.
From the basically saying, hey, we're part of the revolution,
right? And
puts it on the window, and then one of the guys was like, oh shit, they're with us.
Yeah.
Ever after, shoot in the sky, bang, bang, bang.
Forever Purge, baby.
And then they drove away.
Yeah, Real American Racist Klan has an insignia / symbol that they're all using, and I guess they found that somewhere and took it with them. Yeah,
so yeah, that was my first thing that I wanted to bring up. Are there any scenes to you that you want to talk about?
I mean, there's a couple things that happen in this film. One that was really not like a scene so much, but like a thing. Like as they're driving away from like the city, a water tower in the background falls down, and when it hits the ground, it bursts into flames and explodes.
Yeah, that was. That was interesting. Yeah. It's flammable water.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of that about this film. But like any scenes that like I watched him, I mean like any ridiculously bad scenes. No, I mean like yes, but really you could just go through every single scene. They're all equally adequately kind of inane and ridiculous. But were there any that were so bad that like stood out to me that I was like, well, I gotta talk about this right now? Or like any that were exceptionally good? Like, no. Frankly, I think the whole bit was like the childbirth, completely unnecessary. The movie was over when they shot, Daddy Alpha in the head. And granted, after that, the come down after that was only like 5 minutes. So good on them. But like, still, 5 minutes too long, man. Like, I did not need, nor did I care about that child being born in a tent in Mexico or Juan and Adela coming in and then being like, my baby's here. It's like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't need to see any of this. They could have just like been at the border of Mexico right after they shot that dude in the head, panned up to a Mexican flag, and then like cut the credits. Yeah. Frankly.
You know what? I do remember one of the things I had to say now. Excuse me. I thought this movie had a lot of telling and not showing. Yeah. One of the prime examples to me was the fact that I think it was in when they're at the gas station truck stop thing getting supplies, and then they're like all about to get into the truck or whatever, and Adela is like, oh no, like these cities have fallen already and first responders are overwhelmed. Like that seems like the type of thing to me where it's like, oh, maybe show first responders being overwhelmed instead of just being like, first responders are overwhelmed. Like,
yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, 100%. I think there's a lot of gripes I have with this film in general.
Our next thing is plot gripes.
Yeah.
Or just not. Yeah, it's just stuff that rubbed you the wrong way in some way or another.
Man, first things first. I don't think this movie knows what the fuck The Purge is supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think the Purge film as a franchise is just meant to be like a gore movie, man. Just some good old-fashioned, like, brain splatter.
Yeah.
Saw is torture porn, and the Purge in many ways is that, right? Like, as far as I can tell,
in theory,
it's supposed to be that. The whole concept of the Purge is that all crime is legal, and like murder being legal, you get like two types of things. It's either going to be a war film, like Saving Private Ryan, where you get squads of people with guns. And the thing about shooting people in films is it doesn't play really well on cinema for the glory and gore
really
that is
boring.
Like murder. Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting really appreciative about like tactical warfare, and if you're gonna go military, like the gun porn in military films are better than what we had here. You get like helicopters and you get like real appreciation for the rifles and shit. We didn't have that in this. Nor did we have the type of like gore play that really happens in these kind of movies, where it's like most kills in gore torture movies have to be with like sharp objects and knives, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how you get the really weird stuff, or like bones breaking and things. Like if it's a gore film, it's a gore film. And The Purge, as far as I can tell, is a gore franchise. It's not a horror film. It's never been a horror film. Not. And the fact that we had no less than like 7 terrible jump scares in this film, every time something happened, I'm like, what in God's name did we insert these for? This isn't a horror film. And they know it's not a horror film because there's no horror element to it. It just makes no sense to me.
That movie theater scene was pretty spooky.
Ooh, I know. Those skeleton bats. And this is my thing. Like, they didn't make it a gore film. They didn't make it a horror film because it's not supposed to be a horror film.
So what was it? Yeah.
What it really was it was like
centrist propaganda.
Well, yes, it was. It was that, and when it wasn't that, it was a military crawl, poorly directed. Like it was a poorly directed
that was
military
one of the things
crawl.
that I wanted to get at is that I felt like this movie felt like it was shot around like, how can we not choreograph some action?
Honestly, yeah.
Like even that scene that I was just talking about with the truck and the bikes, it was like, how can we resolve this without having to choreograph a fight scene?
Right. Well, because to make military crawls interesting, you have to spend a lot of time on a single combat scene. for people to feel like there's nuance and stakes in the combat scene. And the problem is your main characters are in a small enough group that you can't kill a bunch of them off in a really long drawn out military scene. So by the time they get into like a big firefight where people are actually going to die, they've gotten like the fugitive border crossing team together so they can have some more expendables to shoot and kill. But seriously, like this is the problem. Like they took the film out of what it was supposed to be. When the purge actually happened in the film, like the purge segment is like 5 shots of barely cringe-inducing like beatings with bats and like shootings on a wall. It's like, dude, whatever. This is also milquetoast and not even like, oh my god, my stomach is unsettled by the terror I'm seeing here. Oh my god, how gory, how awful. The purge is atrocious. It was none of that. Absolutely none of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it was really weird to have like all the like, ooh, here's the purge, here's how terrible it is, and then it's just like a guy being chased.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And so that's kind of my main beef with it. It's like it didn't know what it wanted to be. It wanted to be like a Civil War type of film, I guess, but like it didn't center around the Civil War.
Yeah.
It centered around a group of people being a pseudo-militant squad, crawling through cities, trying to stay alive, being introduced to rando antagonists 2/3 through the film.
There were so many antagonists that like didn't really do anything.
Well, and this is the problem. When you have antagonists that don't do anything, you're going to introduce, like, the, quote, big alpha daddy. 2/3 into the film, you have a real short time to develop that character. So you're just like, let's just make him super racist and, like, kind of like Nazi face without the literal swastika tattoo and with more people and resources and power. And make him, like, just your super standard, like, Viking wannabe man. Mm-hmm. He has a big beard. He has his wife. His wife dies. He covers her with a flag. It is all like, all right, crew, we've been preparing for this for a long time.
Yeah.
Alpha, ho. Like, fuck this guy.
I wish that was their, like, call.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, fine, we get it. Like, whatever. Shorthand for, like, this guy's, like, the big bad guy. Like, he might as well be, like, a dude named Grog and have a big club. Like, seriously, that's about as much as they did to be like, oh, no, he's powerful. Yeah. Oh, no, he's an adversary, and he's not kind. Like, whatever. Oh, boy. Yeah, so totally uninteresting because they wanted to, like, make room for their, like, political... fucking message, which was so uninformed and milquetoast, it was almost offensive. I don't know a single human being who's going to go watch this film and come out and be like, you know what? This country has gotten polarized, hasn't it? Like, what the fuck?
They have a point.
Seriously, I honestly have no idea. And if they do take the message of the film and come out, they're like, maybe we do need to give each other some ethnic room. Like, I seriously don't fucking get it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, because, and this is weird, because, like, in between the army crawl, not horror, not gore film, there is segments that you could take the little speeches that all the characters give for 30 seconds, put them back to back on, like, a 30-minute CNN news segment, and it would be completely swappable with whatever punditry is going on there. It's going to be like, what do you think, soft bigot? He's going to be like, I think we should all just stay separate. I don't have nothing against Mexicans. What do you think, hopeful Mexican immigrant woman? She's like, I think we can make America as beautiful as I always dreamed it was going to be when I came in. What do you think, proud American grandpa? When I was young, I thought this country it was easy to be a proud American. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't even know what being a proud American is anymore. And it's also soundbite and weightless and stupid and non-nuanced and just wrong. Like, it just makes me mad. So, yeah. That's my opinion so far.
Yeah, so I have some interesting takes as well, in my opinion. So I think a more accurate title would be, as opposed to the Forever Purge,
right,
would be the Final Purge.
Right.
Because I think that they, with the motives of the characters who are doing this Forever Purge, again, I think that Forever Purge is not the right thing because, to the best of my understanding, most of the characters who we are giving given insight into anyway. Their motivation is not just like anarchy. I want to kill things.
Right.
They're like, we're taking back this country. We are purging it of what we view as like blights on society and like parasites. So we just got to kill them all, and then we're good.
Right.
And so, assuming that they were able to do that, and they are only left with the good, wholehearted, patriotic Americans, the purge would end because there is no one left to purge.
No, we know how fascism works.
Well, yeah, but again, like that's.
Then they're like, "What part of the Nordic countries did you come from?" And you go, "Well, a certain part of Ireland."
But that's the
and
point,
they go,
though.
"Well, that's the
like,
wrong part of Ireland."
Of course,
Your
that's
next purge.
Of course, in practice, that's not what would happen.
Yeah.
But that's the pitch, though, right? Like
Right.
the pitch in doing this is not like, oh, okay, we'll just kill people forever. It's
Right.
like, no, we're going to cleanse America, and then we can. I think, in the words of some of the things, we can build a new country from the ash.
And
so
we
yeah,
can make America.
So I think more, more accurately, yeah, they should be thinking of this as like the final purge.
Right.
We do this last purge, and then we're set.
Right.
But I feel like the writers knew that if this was the final purge, it would be a lot harder to market that next sequel.
Yeah,
so
right,
Forever
right,
Purge is probably a safer bet.
Right.
Which
I don't know. They could always just do Purge Reborn.
Yeah, that is always true. But that does kind of lead me to my next. So the motivation of our purgers, right?
Yes.
So again, it's like, oh, we're cleaning the country up, right?
Right.
Why are they so concerned with killing people who are trying to get out of the country? Which, to be fair, I guess you could say that Alpha Daddy and stuff, they're probably they're doing it more because they have a bone to pick with this specific group of people.
Right.
But all the same, it's like, okay, refugees, go to the border now. Border's open for 6 hours. That seems to me like if I was a purger who was like, oh, yeah, I want these people out of my country. It's like, yeah, go. Come on, get to the border.
I think they certainly have understanding that should the military quash their revolution, these people will just come back. And so they're like, well, we got to kill them now because we're just going to kill them when they come back in anyway.
Yeah. But, yeah, so that it just seemed like a lot of their actions were not in line with their true motivations or their proposed motivations.
One of my biggest gripes. Sorry, I'll let you continue.
Fine. That was more or less what I had to say.
One of my biggest gripes is at the end of the film. They go, militant. Militant uprisers have just overthrown the National Guard in Times Square, and my immediate thought was like, what fucking military racist group in New York City is going to rise up with such numbers?
Well, that's kind of the whole thing too.
National fucking Guard
is even at just the point where in El Paso in El Paso when it fell,
right?
It's like, oh, they attacked the military base and they're too much for the military,
right?
Again, this is fiction, but the United States military, like. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of their work, but
right.
You have to recognize they're probably not a force to be trifled with. So I feel like the group of people down the lane who have some guns are not going to really hold a candle to that.
Right, because evidently the government is against the Forever Purge. You could make a pitch, I suppose, that the president and the governor saw the Forever Purge thing and they go, hey, fuck it. We'll just let this one settle it out before we send in and quash whatever remains or whatever. So evidently they're against it from the get. So I'm going drone strikes. Dude, third breed fucking drone strikes. This is a government that doesn't really care so much about people in general, considering they let a thing like the Purge happen. So dude, some civilians in the drone strike, yeah, 100%. The military would not be overthrown like this. Ridiculous, I say. Ridiculous.
Yeah, this movie was just a mess.
Yeah,
which I guess leads to our last little portion here. Was it enjoyable?
Man, I want to say yes, but my thing is, like, I think for sure I could watch, like, the first Purge movie and get so much more enjoyment out of watching that than I would have out of this Purge movie. Like, when I think about, like, was it enjoyable to watch? I mean, it was as enjoyable to watch as literally any media thing, right? Like, I mean, like, there was shooting. There
was.
There you go. Like, frankly, like, the preachiness was boring. The army crawling was boring. Like, I just didn't care. I wasn't bored because, you know, being in a movie isn't necessarily like a boring experience, especially when there's like explosions and stuff going on. Like there's like a minimum threshold for like stimulation, and it met that. But like Jesus Christ, I wouldn't. If someone was like, you want to watch like The Purge, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's watch like The Purge, and they go, well, how about the Forever Purge? I go, pretty much any other one seems like it would probably be a better purge than whatever this was.
Yeah, I think I'd go as far to say it is. As a whole, no, I do not think it was. The whole entire movie, I do not think was super enjoyable. But I think that there were a few scenes that was like, oh, okay, this is fun. But yeah, I think I would not really recommend it personally.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say about it. When I saw like Saw 2, I saw that movie and then went back and watched like the making of the traps, and I was like, "Oh, I actually do want to see that trap again. That seems pretty interesting. Like, oh, that one was brutal. Yeah, let's check that out." I don't think there is a single scene in this movie that I'd be like, you know what, I just want to watch that gunfight again, or you know what, I just want to see those characters do like their crazy fight again. Like, not a single one that I'm just like, oh, that was a good one though. Let me go see that again.
Yeah, all the action was just so vanilla.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Absolutely. And the gun, like, so
like,
much of
not
it,
even just vanilla, but like lazy.
Yeah, well, so much of it, if we're going the military route, then at least have like the gun porn exists. Like, they didn't even do that. They weren't like, here's my rifle, I'm decking it out, it has
closest thing we had to that was Swastika Face, who was like, oh, you hear that? That's this rifle.
Right. But like, this is my point about gun porn. Like, the point of gun porn in a film is that if you don't give a single fuck about guns, you look at whatever they're wielding, you go, but that's cool. Like, oh my God, that looks so cool. And they didn't even have that. There wasn't like big vehicle military stuff. There wasn't none of that. The closest thing they have to like someone who doesn't care about like machinery and warfare stuff, like I don't really care about. The closest thing they had to like interesting was like the Mad Max sand dunes when they're coasting on the border stuff. You're like, all right, that's pretty rad. I mean, like, it's weird that they're this prepared, but I guess if there were to be like a weird like militant people existing, it'd probably be in like Texas or some shit. Another point, it is in theaters right now. We're over 200 days into the presidency of Joe Milquetoast Biden. Like, if this movie was supposed to highlight the prevalent issue that existed around the election season all the way from, like, fucking, like last year's, I'm going to say, like, summer of 2020 to, like, Joe Biden's actual entrance in, like, January of 2021, you had a lot of fucking time to do this slightly at a more culturally relevant point.
Yeah, that's the thing with all these,
now.
like, really, like, half-cocked, like, fake political movies is that like by the time they're produced, it's like old news, you know?
Yeah, and I'm not denying that this is still like a sentiment that exists in America.
Well, yeah, obviously, like the problem is still there.
The cultural relevance of it, the spotlight's not on it, man. Like, we're 200 days into Joe Biden. Like, we're talking about infrastructure deals right now politically. We're not talking about like the propulsion and what would you say, the exacerbation of this like racial tear from top down shit. Like, we're not past that, but the talking points have moved past that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's not great. Well, do you want to do our rating here?
Yes.
All right. I think I'd give that a out of.
Man, it gets a out of for me. Like, forget this film.
Yeah, what a film. Yeah, I don't think... I don't even think that I really want to watch any of the other Purge movies after this, just because it was like that boring to me.
Well, dude, yeah, I don't know. I was seeing the ratings of them in general on like IMDb, and they average like 5s or 6s. But if any of them are going to be more like crazy, creepy gore stuff that I would expect from it, I wouldn't be not interested in seeing that type of thing.
Yeah, I would say with this film particularly, watch the trailer if you haven't already, and you pretty much have seen all the best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Including the one-liner. The one-liner before he kills the big baddie in the end of it is literally in the trailer.
Watch your favorite revenge film and watch your favorite military film, and they'll both do those things better than what we got here.
Yeah, this was... I wish we could end on a better note, but yeah, not a whole lot to say. Hopefully the next one will be a little more fun.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, well, with that, I think we'll be seeing... or I guess we won't be seeing you because you're not here. But
yes.
You will hopefully be seeing and hearing us later.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what you got.
That's what you got.
That's what you got. Until next time.